Our first HTML lesson. In this lesson, I'm going to introduce kind of the whole objective for this course, and then also the first lesson. The biggest thing is understanding how to use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and we're going to create a project throughout this whole entire course. So I'm not going to go over that right now, but basically, when we're done, you're going to have a website. Remember the difference when web basics, a website, not web page, a website with a bunch of different pages that have JavaScript, CSS, and all of that. Again, this is web development. So what we're going to look at first is this little piece of code. I'm going to enlarge it a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. But I want you to look at this code because when you understand what this code is and how it works, then you'll understand HTML and what you need to do to make anything. You can Google anything you need. If you can understand the basics of what this script is doing, you'll understand this class. So take a second look at that code. I want you to think of some items that you notice. What do you notice? So go ahead and pause the video, think about it, and then we'll see if you got your name on things. So pause. All right, so hopefully you'll notice a couple things. One of the big things is, these little angle brackets. All of these are in angle brackets. This is a tag. This happens to be the HTML tag. But this is a tag. So that's one big thing. All of these tags have these angle brackets around them. But then you'll notice that some of them have a slash. So hopefully some of you notice that here is one, and here is a matching one that goes with it. This would be a start tag. This would be a close tag. So I hope you're kind of seeing these patterns, right? Most tags have a start tag and an end tag. And the rule of thumb, if there's something in between those tags, you're going to have a closing tag. There are some tags that don't have a closing tag because there's nothing in between them. Now we'll go over what each of these tags are, the head tag, the body tag. But at the end of the day, you can see that everything's wrapped inside of the HTML tag. Then you notice that inside, there's a head tag. Below the head tag, there is a body tag. And for this demonstration, I have Hello World inside of the body tag, and you can see that it shows up over on this side, which would be the actual web page, what users would see. As we just went over in Web Basics, this is the HTML. This is the web page that the users see, that the browser would produce when you request the web page. Now, hopefully, some of you have even noticed that there's indenting here. So every time there's a new tag, head is indented. And then you notice that Hello World is indented inside of the body. This is important syntax that you need to understand because when you make really big pages, which are kind of shown in the Web Basics like Google's, all of that script that you see, it's going to be really complicated. Here, you could probably have everything back on the line, but that doesn't work. If you have hundreds and hundreds of lines, it's really hard to tell where everything is. So this indenting syntax, and we'll go over that a little bit more, but I wanted you to kind of notice those things. There's brackets, angle brackets. You might less than, greater than sign, but they're called angle brackets. They're surrounding items. The Hello World is surrounding the body. It shows up over here. So let's go ahead and move into that first lesson. So hopefully you got at least a couple of those, because really once you understand that, that's when this all starts to make sense. So we're moving over here to the HTML basics. We're going to learn a couple tags, but we still have our basic tags here, right? We're going to learn a couple more tags to go into this and how this works. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to watch this con video. Now, I recommend if you ever have anything, you can come back and watch my videos, but this is another person that puts out great videos, and it's the same concept. You can pause my videos and go to this tab. I remember, as I mentioned, if you're going over here, I have all of my pages here. You can come to the actual lesson and then click on the trinket link as a reminder, and that'll bring you back over to the correct page so you can follow along just like me. But before we start, our objective is to understand how to add the H1 and the P tags, and really to understand what they are. So at the end of this lesson, again, you'll see that now you're finished with this assignment. When you're done with the lesson, you'll click on that. That'll take you to where you have all the activities to do for this lesson. So we'll do a con challenge, and you're going to show that you can use these tags. And really, as we go through this, all of the tags are pretty much like this. You just need to understand what the tags are. But if you can understand how to wrap tags, how to create an element, if you can understand how to do that, you're going to do fine in this course. So let's go ahead. We'll watch the video, and then we'll try this out together.
Welcome to my webpage. I know, it's not a very exciting webpage. It's completely blank. But every webpage starts that way, and I'll show you how to build up this page soon. First, though, give me a minute to show you around the skeleton of a blank web page. Every web page starts with this funny-looking thing called a doc type at the top. And this is just a signal to the browser that this web page is written in modern HTML and not a kludgy old weird HTML. Next, to the very first tag of the page. HTML is a markup language, so it's all about tags. And a tag is one of these things that starts with an angle bracket and ends with another angle bracket. Or if you like math, you might think of them as less than and greater than signs. The first tag of every page is always that HTML tag right under the doc type. This one is the start HTML tag, and then at the bottom, there's this end HTML tag, which is the same except for this backslash, which is really important. The HTML tag needs to contain every other tag that makes up this web page, and that's why we don't have the end HTML tag until the bottom. A lot of HTML tags come in pairs like this, but not all of them. Okay, underneath HTML, there's always a head tag, and that contains tags that helps the browser render the page, but doesn't contain anything the user actually sees.
I like to say that the head tag holds information about the web page, behind the scenes information. This title, and this is going to confuse a lot of students later on, this title is what shows up here. Now again, this is a web page inside of a web page, just like Trinket is a web page inside of a web page. So this title is what shows up here. So when you create this, when we do 00 web host and you put a title here, it should show up here. So that is, again, but it's information about the web page. It's not actually showing up over here. It's just information. This char set, again, character set, it's just information about this web page. It doesn't actually show up over here. So again, I like to say the head holds information about the web page.
There's this meta tag that gives the browser more details about how to render the page. For example, if you're using common characters like from English language, and not harder to render characters like from the Arabic language, then you should have meta char set equals UTF-8. Then there's this title tag, which the browser uses to decide the title of the page. And this is what shows in the tab on top of browsers and in bookmarks and in search results. And here on Khan Academy, the title shows up above our web page. Let me change the title. I'm going to make a page all about rabbits, and maybe you can actually see as it changes above. Nice. Okay, now we're done with these details. So we end the head tag and move on to the tag where it's all going to happen, the body tag. It's pretty boring right now, just the start and the end. Okay, what should I add? Well, I'm making a web page about rabbits, so I should probably declare that in a big old headline at the top. To add a headline, we use the H1 tag. And all about rabbits. Great. Actually, we have 6 tags that we can use for headlines. H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H.
Alright, so stop at that. How many tags did you just say? 6 tags. There's 6 tags, and as you go through, and here's the beauty of her set, why I use these videos, because it's like half video, half tutorial. So I can add an H2 here, notice how it closes itself. And you can see that the H2 is smaller than the H1. But again, one might call this the title of the web page. It is the title of what you actually see, but again, so this confuses a lot of students. This title tag shows up in that top tab. It goes inside the head. You never put the title tag inside of the body. You have heading. These are heading tags. Also not to be confused with the head tag, right? So think of this like a human body. The head goes above the body. So you want to, this is the head tag. It's information about the web page. The heading tags are H1, H2, all the way down to H6. And they're just different tags that help hold stuff information. So this is the heading tag. It's kind of used as a header. So I'm gonna call it the heading tag, but you kind of think about it's used to create headers. And not to get confused with the actual head tag, because the head goes at the top of the body. Got to remember that. That's probably some of the hardest things. The basic setup: HTML, head, and then the body. And again, as soon as I hit play, everything that I type goes away, so it'll go back to hers.
6. The H1 is for the most important headlines on the page, and H6 is the least important. Let me add a few more headlines for other sections, and I'll use an H2 since these are slightly less important sections. And some songs. Okay, great. Now let's add some information. Well, my target audience for this page is aliens that have never seen rabbits, so I better give them a good description of rabbits. In fact, I think I need a whole paragraph of information. How can I mark up a paragraph in HTML? With the P tag, of course.
All right, so again, how does she mark it up? Say it out loud. With the P tag. The paragraph tag is the P tag. Again, as we get further into HTML, what exactly the H1 is doing, bold, adding some spaces and lines above it, we'll get more into that. But really, it's kind of like a grouping element. So you put paragraphs together. It's a way to kind of group them together. But the paragraph tag is just simply the P tag.
So we put in that P tag, and then I'm just going to go ahead and paste in information so that you don't have to type the whole thing. Beautiful. All right, now the aliens will need a song to greet the rabbits with, so I'll give them lyrics to my personal favorite, and once again, use that P tag for it, and paste in the song, Little Bunny Foo. Ah, such a good song. But, it's showing up all on the same line. Why didn't the browser render the line breaks that I put in here? Well, actually, browsers mostly ignore line breaks and white space in your HTML. And if we want the browser to render a line break, we have to tell it explicitly using another tag, the BR tag, which stands for break.
All right, so how do you make a line break? And you should have saw this right away, that as soon as she added that BR tag for break, remember, so BR tag is a break, it went ahead and moved this down a line. So you'll also notice that this does not have an end tag. And as I mentioned before, if stuff goes in between it, like this P tag, there's stuff in between it, it needs a start and a close tag. I mean, computers really are stupid if you think about it. You need to tell it exactly where to start and exactly where to end. Otherwise, it's just going to think everything. How would it know where the next thing is? Because you'll get to the point where you have headings inside of paragraphs and so on and so forth. You're going to have tags inside of tags. So you need to know exactly where everything starts and ends. But this BR tag is just there, right? It's a line break, so therefore it doesn't need it. But this is important to understand this concept. And if we go further, like if I pull this back to the same thing, like you can see this is space. So watch very carefully. It takes this first space, but even as I add a bunch of different spaces, it doesn't do anything, right? This is a key important concept, which is talking about the white space. This is white space. It basically ignores most of it. It'll take that first space, and that's it. So when we hit enter, we need to actually tell it what to do. So when I start this again, the BR will come back, and that's what she's going to use to kind of separate it.
So we'll go through and add BRs after each line. Now it looks like lyrics. Do you notice something funny about BR? There's no end tag. Well, if you think about it, a line break doesn't contain any content, so it has nothing to end after. Just the start tag is all we need. And there we have it. The aliens will learn the basics of rabbits, and you've learned the basics of HTML.
All right, so we'll go back and let's do this together. So again, you're going to want to make sure that you go ahead and check it in. I'm going to full screen this, and then we're going to go together, and then when we're done, you're going to go through and knock out all the rest of this. So let me go ahead and full screen this and make it slightly larger so you can see it. All right. Now first things first. I want you to go ahead, delete hello world, and then type in whatever you want to tell the world. So I'm just going to type in hello world again. But go ahead, whatever you want to tell the world. I want you to see that when you type it, it shows up over here. Whatever you typed should have showed up on this side. So that's just a good test. Let's go ahead and put it inside of an H1. Now remember, we have our lesson sign, or the angle bracket, H1, close it. It automatically closes this, which sometimes is good, sometimes is bad. In this case, if you highlight this, click and drag, you can also hit Control X, which will cut it, Control V, which will paste it. Basically, you want to get the words inside of the H1. So now we have H1. Notice it's indented inside of the body. Notice when we click Enter, it keeps that indent for us. So if we wanted to add our H2 now, we go bracket H2. Again, if you need to pause this video at any time, so you're typing, pause this video, type, come back, check your work. So let's do section 1. Again, I'm going to put a lot of stuff that is gibberish just so we have information. Again, notice H2 is smaller. We click Enter. And now let's add a paragraph out of our sentence. So paragraph, and then we type, this is my first sentence. All right, now we're going to do some interesting stuff. So again, this is not really good syntax for the paragraph. So what we're going to do is, right before this, we're going to hit Enter. And then right at the end of it, we're going to click Enter. And then I'm going to hit backspace. So now this looks better because we're going to add more to it. This is important. So again, this is my second sentence, period. All right, they're all on one line, but what if I want to move this down? We just noticed, all right, so go ahead and type it out. We just noticed that when we click Enter, it doesn't actually do anything. Again, when we add a bunch of spaces, it doesn't actually do anything. And this side over here still looks the same. It ignored all of that. So what was the tag they taught us to add a break? Right? The BR tag. And again, it doesn't close. So as soon as I did that, you can see that break is there. That's what the BR tag is. So go ahead. I want you to add section 2, and then I want you to add a paragraph. So whatever you want section 2 to do that, make your own section, and then add like a sentence about it in a paragraph. So go ahead and pause, and then do that. All right, welcome back. This is what it should look like. H2, and then section 2, 2. And then you should have another paragraph tag. This is my next paragraph. And again, whatever you wrote there is fine. Is just make sure that it's inside of this. But again, the correct way to do that is click Enter here, and back. Now, let me show you another way to do this. Close the tag. I did that wrong. Is before you type anything, just go ahead and click Enter. And then it sets you up. Oops. It sets you up so it looks better, right? So, again, you want to make sure that you're getting this syntax down. Even, as we go here, this is starting to add more lines. We're already at 16 lines, and we don't really have much to this web page. So this gets really big really fast, and if you don't have this organized, then it's not going to work right. So, with that, again, go ahead, practice this, make sure before you move on that your page looks something like this with your own words. And then you're going to go and you're going to work on the rest of the activities. So you're going to work on the rest of the activities. That's how most of our lessons. This was our first lesson on HTML, so hopefully get used to how these work. And then we'll move on to all the rest of the lessons we have. So with that, have a good day.